The rain fell incessantly, turning the concrete of Chicago into a reflective mirror of a city that never stopped. I was curled up in a corner near a closed store, holding my sign that asked for help. Help me take care of my dad. The words felt heavy in my chest, as if each letter were a reminder of the responsibility I carried. People passed quickly, some casting glances of pity, while others simply ignored me, as if I were invisible. Look, there's another one, I heard a woman murmur to another, with a tone of disdain that cut me like a knife. If only they knew what I really do for him, I thought, as I wiped the water running down my hair. The image of my dad, Tom, invaded my mind. He used to be a strong man, full of life. I remember the day we played ball in the park. "Clara, catch! You can do it!" he shouted, his radiant smile lighting up the cloudy day. But that was before the accident. Now, he was trapped in a dark, reclusive, and bitter world, like a shadow of the man I used to know. The memory dissolved when a raindrop slid down my face, mixing with tears I didn't know were there. "Why don't you get up and do something, Dad?" I wanted to scream, but the words never came out. I needed the courage to ask about his past, about what really happened. He always closed himself off in his silence, and I, out of fear, never pushed him to talk. When I finally decided it was time to go home, my heart was heavy. Upon opening the door, I was greeted by the sound of the loud television. "Hi, Clara," Tom said with a smile that faded as quickly as it appeared. "How was your day?" It was always like this, a moment of joy that soon turned into sadness. It was good, Dad," I lied, trying to hide the worries that tormented me. "Just some change today." He nodded, but his eyes revealed the truth I feared to face. The pressure of the future consumed us, and the doubt about what was really happening in his life grew more intense each day. The cafe's light was soft, but the smell of fresh coffee and warm bread gave me a new boost. It was my first day at work, and even though I was tired, I was determined to do my best. As I washed the cups, I thought about how every cent I earned would help improve my father's life. "You're doing great, Clara," said Mrs. Myers, the cafe owner, as she dried a glass. "If you need any help, just let me know." "Thank you, Mrs. Myers. I'm trying to get used to the routine," I replied, forcing a smile. But deep down, the weight of the responsibilities was suffocating me. The thought that I had to balance the job and the begging made me anxious. That afternoon, when I left the cafe, the sky was overcast and my stomach growled. I needed some extra money, so I decided to go to the corner where I used to beg. The feeling of being there again was a blow to my self-esteem. The disdainful looks from passers-by cut through me like a knife. But I needed to be strong. It was at that moment that I saw my father, Tom, leaving the house. He looked different, more put together than usual. My heart raced when I saw him cross the street, and on impulse, I decided to follow him. With each step, curiosity and apprehension grew inside me. What was he doing? He walked into a luxury hotel, and suddenly, everything made sense, and at the same time it didn't. My father always complained about the lack of money. Why would he be there, in such an opulent place? I stood frozen outside, trying to understand what was happening. The luxury of that place was a stark contrast to our life. "Clara, what are you doing here?" A familiar voice pulled me from my thoughts. It was a childhood friend, Lucas, who also worked nearby. He looked at me with concern, and I didn't know if I should tell the truth. I'm just waiting for someone," I lied, forcing a smile. My mind was swirling with questions. What was my father hiding? I needed answers. When I finally returned home, The tension between us only grew. I could no longer ignore the doubts that consumed me. What else did I not know about him? The atmosphere at home was heavy, as if each breath left a bitter taste in my mouth. I walked into the living room and saw my father sitting on the couch, his eyes fixed on the TV screen, but his mind was clearly far away. My heart raced as I realized I needed to confront him. What I saw in that hotel wouldn't leave my mind. "Dad?" I called, trying to hide the tremor in my voice. He didn't respond. "I saw you today at the hotel." His expression changed instantly, a shadow crossing his eyes. "Clara, that's none of your business," he replied, his voice tense. "None of my business? I beg on the streets to take care of you, and you're getting involved in things I don't understand? What's going on?" Anger and despair mixed within me like a hurricane about to explode. "You don't understand anything about what I'm going through. It's easy for you to point fingers, but you don't know what it's like to fight every day, to live like this," he shouted, rising from the couch, frustration evident in every word. "So, explain it to me. Tell me what's happening," I pleaded, tears beginning to slide down my face. "I can't take care of you if you don't let me in." He hesitated, his eyes filled with a pain I didn't know how to heal. "Sometimes you have to do things you don't want to do to protect those you love. I can't involve you in this." "You've already involved me, Dad. I'm part of this. I can't stay here, not knowing the truth." My heart raced, and the feeling of helplessness was almost unbearable. "Clara, please." He looked exhausted, as if the weight of his words was more than he could bear. "I just want you to have a better life away from all of this. But this life you're giving me is a lie. I need to know." The silence that followed was deafening. His gaze softened, but there was still an abyss between us, a wall built by secrets and fears. I decided I wouldn't give up. If he didn't want to talk, I would seek the truth on my own. The desire to understand transformed into fierce determination. I needed answers. The atmosphere of the hotel was oppressive, each loud laugh and toast resonating like a distant echo in my mind. As I moved between the tables, the waitress dress I wore felt like an unsustainable disguise. It was as if everyone there knew I didn't belong to that world. But the need to uncover the truth pushed me forward. It was then that I heard the two men again, their voices low but loaded with tension. "He needs to pay the debt, or things will get worse," one of them said, with a worried look. The other just nodded, as if he was already accustomed to the situation. "The last time we found him, he was desperate. I don't know how he got himself into this." My heart raced. "Debt?" I murmured to myself, trying to process the information. How could my father, a man who always fought to keep us together, have fallen into the clutches of a lone shark? The image of him, sitting in the living room with his vacant gaze, pierced through me like a knife. He was sinking into something dangerous, and I hadn't even noticed. I decided I needed to know more. But before I could move, one of the men looked directly at me. "Wait a minute. You're not one of the waitresses here." Panic washed over me, and in a burst of impulse, I turned and started to run. "Hey, where do you think you're going?" he shouted, but I didn't look back. The corridor felt endless, and each step I took was a mix of adrenaline and fear. Finally, I managed to escape the hotel, the door closing behind me as if it were protecting a dark secret. The cool night air hit me like a bomb, but the anguish inside me only grew. I couldn't go home without answers. When I entered, the living room light was on, and Tom was sitting on the couch, looking older than ever. "Clara?" He called, the concern in his voice palpable. "Are you okay?" I saw you into the hotel, Dad, and I heard some things. What's happening to you?" I asked, my voice trembling as the truth weighed heavily between us. He hesitated, and for a moment, the silence was deafening. You weren't supposed to find out, he finally said, his voice low and filled with regret. I've done wrong things, Clara. Things I deeply regret. Debt? With a loan shark? How could you let yourself get into this? I confronted him, my heart tightening as tears threatened to fall. We're struggling here, and you get involved in something like this? Tom looked away, and a weakness settled on his face. I just wanted to make sure you had a better life. The bills were piling up, and I didn't know what to do. And now, you're putting our lives at risk. I shouted, frustration overflowing. You don't have to do this. We can find another way. I tried, Clara. I tried every way I could, but the pressure was too much. He stood up, his voice trembling. I just wanted the best for us. And now I'm trapped in something I don't know how to solve. Despair enveloped us, and what had once been a tense conversation was now a cry for help. I looked at my father, a man who had once been strong and full of life, now lost in his own choices. We need to face this together, Dad. I can't lose you too. I was determined to help my father, but I knew I needed a different approach. His words echoed in my mind. You don't understand the situation. I needed to show him that not only did I understand, but I was willing to fight for both of us. That morning, while working at the cafe, an idea began to take shape. I looked around, observing my peers, and I realized they cared too. Hey, everyone, I called out, a glimmer of hope in my eyes. What if we organized a fundraiser? We can help my dad get out of this situation. The gazes met, and to my surprise, one of them, Maria, was the first to respond. That's a great idea, Clara. We could do something big, maybe an event at the park. The energy in the cafe shifted completely. We agreed to meet that night to plan. At first, the idea was simple, a bake sale and raffles. But as we discussed, the idea grew, and soon we were talking about live music, food stalls, and even games for the kids. The community would come together, and this could be more than just raising money. It could be a way to bring everyone closer. On the day of the event, the atmosphere was electric. The lights were flashing, laughter echoed, and I felt more alive than ever. Look at how many people came, Clara, Maria said, pulling me to dance. We're making this happen. But deep down, worry still consumed me. What if the loan sharks found my dad? What if he got into more trouble? I looked at my dad, who was at home, trying to avoid the tension that filled the air. He looked so lost, so distant. We need this, Dad. Please stay safe, I whispered to myself. Meanwhile, Tom was caught in his own struggle. He knew he needed to resolve the situation with the loan shark before it was too late. He hurried to meet him, the pressure in his chest increasing with each step. Tom, you didn't fulfill your part of the deal, said the loan shark, his eyes cold as ice. The time to pay is coming, and it won't just be with money. The heavy words hung in the air. Tom felt the weight of responsibility crushing him. He wanted to protect Clara, but with every wrong decision, the situation became more complicated. I'll get the money. Just give me more time, he pleaded, trying to keep his voice steady. Time is something you don't have, my friend. You know how this business works. And if you don't bring what you owe, the consequences will be severe. The loan shark walked away, leaving Tom in a sea of uncertainties, as worry for his daughter grew in his heart. Anxiety pulsed in my chest as I gathered with my friends from the cafe in a hidden corner of the park. The soft light of late afternoon filtered through the leaves, but my mind was far from that tranquil scene. We need to act quickly, I said, looking into each of their eyes. The loan shark won't stop until he gets what he wants from Tom. But what can we do? Lucia asked, her voice trembling. We're just working at a cafe, Clara. We're not detectives or heroes. Maybe not, but we have something he doesn't expect. Courage and the will to protect those we love, I replied firmly. If we can record his threats, we can take it to the police. They will act. We need a plan. The faces around me began to light up with the idea. What if we keep an eye on the hotel? We can use one of our phones to record everything, suggested Pedro, one of the older waiters. I nodded in agreement. All right, let's divide the tasks. I keep an eye on Tom. You all position yourselves at the hotel exits. The plan was laid out. Adrenaline coursed through my veins as I made my way to the hotel, my heart racing. Peeking from around a corner, I saw Tom enter, his slender figure appearing even more vulnerable against the opulence of the place. I needed to do this for him. In the following days, my phone became an ally. With the help of my friends, we managed to record the threats from the loan shark in a conversation that echoed through the hotel walls. Hearing his cold, calculating words made me tremble. If you don't pay Tom, I'm going to make you remember what I'm capable of, he said, his voice low and menacing. With the recording in hand, we headed to the police station. The tension was palpable. Clara, are you sure you want to do this? Lucia asked, holding my hand. I looked into her eyes and saw the fear, but also the determination. Yes, we need to do this. Not just for Tom, but for ourselves. When we handed the recording to the officer, he immediately showed interest. This is serious, young lady. We'll act now, he said, grabbing his radio. The weight I was carrying began to dissipate. When the operation was carried out, I saw the loan shark's men being taken away in handcuffs. A wave of relief and happiness washed over me. But the biggest twist was yet to come. At home, Tom was sitting at the table with an expression of someone who had faced an emotional whirlwind. Clara, I don't know how to thank you, he said, his eyes glistening. You've done more for me than I've done for you all these years. But, Dad, there's something you need to tell me, I said hesitantly. I heard you had an inheritance from a distant relative. Why have you never talked about it? He sighed, the sadness creeping back onto his face. I was too proud to accept help. I thought I needed to solve everything on my own. That moment was a turning point. Love and truth intertwined into a new hope. We're in this together, Dad. Let's start over, I said, and for the first time in a long time, I saw a genuine smile on his face. Life would still be challenging, but now I knew that together we were stronger.